Now at 8, it's a video that is horrifying to watch.
I didn't realize how close I was to the tracks, and it took the rear end of my car and it just spun it.
Tonight we have new video shedding insight into what a Platteville police officer was aware of in the moments before his police cruiser was hit by a train with a handcuffed woman inside.
Plus, hundreds of families are still waiting to rebuild after the devastating Marshall Fire. And now they are running against the clock before funding from insurance companies expire.
Even just building, if we're talking a single home, that's going to take often more than a year. So imagine how long it's going to take to rebuild entire community.
We take a closer look at the fine print and what can be done if an extension isn't given.
And a new era for Broadway begins, but there are mixed feelings.
Yes, there is some apprehension, but overall, I think folks are excited.
The construction project that is hoping to bring more business to the area and how it'll affect your commute. Good evening, and thank you for watching Denver 7 News on Local 3. I'm Jessica Porter.
And I'm Amy Wattis. We start tonight with a follow-up to a story that continues to leave people with more questions than answers.
Last month, we first told you about a 22-year-old woman who was severely injured after being hit by a train while handcuffed in the back of a Platteville police car. Now, 1 week later, we received this video showing the moment when the cruiser was hit with Yoreni Rios Gonzalez inside.
Today, Denver 7 obtained even more body camera videos revealing that one of the Platteville officers on scene was shocked to find that Rios Gonzalez was inside his own cruiser that was hit.
Denver 7's Bayan Wang breaks down this new video.
Move your car!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
It's the horrifying moment that should have never happened, making headlines across the country for weeks. 20-year-old Yoreni Rios Gonzalez is handcuffed in the back seat, detained after allegedly pointing a gun at another driver.
Where are you taking me? We're taking you to the car.
A Platteville police car belonging to Sergeant Pablo Vasquez that was clearly parked on train tracks, as seen on this edited Fort Lupton police officer's body cam.
Ma'am, what's going on?
As Vasquez and the Fort Lupton officers search Rios Gonzalez's car, the attorney says she cried out for help, noticing the train approaching long before officers did. Now we know why Sergeant Vasquez didn't react sooner.
I didn't realize how close I was to the tracks, and it took the rear end of my car. It just threw it. It just like moved it. It moved it about a good 60 yards.
Unaware that he had parked on the tracks and telling other officers he had no idea Rios Gonzalez was placed in his car.
I didn't think the Lupton officer was going to put her in my car. I just didn't. And she did. She put her in my car. Well, I didn't know she was in my car because I remember when the train hit, I said, was she in my car? And she said, oh my God, she was.
You're okay. Don't move. What's your name?
Rios Gonzalez is heard moaning. Her attorney says the impact broke 9 ribs, her arm, fractured her sternum, and injured her leg, head, and back. Digging even deeper into this case, Denver 7 obtained the Weld County dispatch reports.
We cannot open the damn door.
It took nearly 20 minutes to pry open the mangled door and extricate Rios Gonzalez, who now has a very long path to recovery. Bayan Wang, Denver 7.
Yeah, just unbelievable. Rios Gonzalez's attorney tells us she is slowly beginning to walk again, but is still experiencing a lot of pain. They plan on suing both the Platteville and Fort Lupton Police Department, alleging that their officers were negligent.
We are approaching 1 year since the Marshall Fire. Hundreds of families are still in the process of getting permits to rebuild, and their additional living expenses provided by insurance may be set to expire. The Colorado Division of Insurance tells me those impacted by the fire should now file for an extension for additional living expenses. Now, that money provided by insurance covers things like rent, food, and clothing. Those impacted should first check their policies to determine if they have 1 or 2 years of living expenses coverage. Second, if you have a rebuilding contract in place, contact the insurance company and ask for an extension based on your estimated date of completion. Lastly, you can also request an extension if you believe the insurance company has delayed your claim.
Say you've had that rebuilding contract to them and it's been sitting with them for a few months and they haven't done anything. That delay is something that you can ask for, whatever the delayed period was, for that extension.
Plymouth says that his team is working through many insurance complaints from those impacted by the Marshall Fire. So if your insurance company is denying an extension, you can file a complaint with the Colorado Division of Insurance.
Adding some context, Colorado is getting more than $3 million from FEMA for Marshall Fire recovery. $1.5 million will go to fire suppression activities, including firefighter ground and air support. The rest will go to the state's Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for managing the recovery effort.
Mental health support is expanding for Marshall Fire victims. Boulder County is offering several resources, including counselors in Louisville and Superior through November 29th. The Boulder Valley School District is offering free counseling sessions for students and employees. Businesses are also giving out crisis cards that have information on where to get mental health support 24/7.
Well, not the news we want to hear. The U.S. saw the weakest monthly job gains since April of 2021. The 263,000 jobs added last month is higher than expected, but it's the second straight month of decline. Economists say that points to a slower labor market. Most jobs were added in leisure, hospitality, and healthcare. The unemployment rate also ticked down to 3.5%, matching a 50-year low.
President Joe Biden is sending a chilling warning of a nuclear conflict with Russia. He told Democratic donors off camera Thursday, quote, "We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since the Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis." The White House was quick to downplay Biden's remarks.
At this stage, we do not have any information that would cause us to change our strategic deterrence posture, and we don't assess that President Putin has made a decision to use nuclear weapons at this time.
The warning comes as Russia struggles with a string of defeats in Ukraine and a loss of Ukrainian territory the Russian Federation is trying to illegally annex.
Shots fired in University Hill last weekend have the CU Boulder and Boulder police departments working on ways to inform people about off-campus incidents, plus provide a clear explanation about alert systems. It includes a new tier of alerts called CU Advisories. Those are non-emergency events or incidents, including police activity near campus. Both departments are also planning to increase patrols in the University Hill neighborhood. Police are looking for more suspects wanted in connection to the shots being fired into the air. They've already arrested 2 people. After a 2-year hiatus, Women's March in Denver is returning to Civic Center Park. Tomorrow morning, the event will begin with a rally at 8 a.m. followed by a march. This year, march organizers say the event will focus on equality and reproductive rights. Jade Marquez, the chair for this year's march, says even for those with opposing views, it's important for all women to engage in the political process.
It's important because we all need to remember to stay fully engaged in our democracy. We need to stay up to date on the candidates and the issues, and we need to make sure that we're getting out and voting every single time.
Students for Life is also planning a counter protest at the same time to demonstrate against abortion rights.
A new era for Broadway in Denver is underway. Construction officially started today to extend a protected bike lane, make improvements to the sidewalks and traffic lights, and bring in more landscaping and art. Denver 7's Rob Harris breaks down what we should expect during the project and how the businesses along Broadway are feeling about it.
Drivers, walkers, and bikers are being greeted on Broadway by this heads up. Construction is finally upon us. I talked to bike advocates about this a couple weeks ago. They've been pushing for it for a long time because they don't feel safe riding their bikes down Broadway without a dedicated and protected bike lane.
It's not a comfortable ride. There's no protection at all. Anybody can change a lane right into you. People shout at you.
Now that the project's finally here, we wanted to hear how businesses along Broadway feel about it. Some important context here though, this project's been talked about for at least 7 years. It's been 6 years since the city installed this strip of protected bike lane from Bayard to Virginia. They were testing out the 2-way protected bike lane that's now being extended.
This has been a conversation for many years, and by and large, business owners are happy to see this conversation finished. And most importantly, this is an infrastructure improvement that will last for the next century of the city, and that is a new era for Broadway. And so, yes, there is some apprehension, but overall, I think folks are excited.
That's Luke Johnson. He owns a shop on Broadway, and he serves as president of the Broadway Merchants Association. Businesses are mostly raising two concerns to him: congestion during construction and a loss of parking as they head into their most busy time of the year. They're working with the city and the construction company to iron out as much as they can. Check out this diagram from the city. It gives you an idea of what Broadway will look like when all is said and done. Phase 1 will start on the west side of Broadway, updating traffic lights and enhancing the sidewalks. Phase 2 will do the same on the east side and then add that two-way protected bike lane. Then Phase 3 will add landscaping and striping on the street. Now there will be some lane closures and sidewalk closures during each of those phases, but access to all the businesses should remain. And we're told that the entire project will wrap up fall of next year. For Denver 7, I'm Rob Harris.
Thank you, Rob. And if you're wondering about the annual Broadway Halloween Parade, we're told it's still on for October 22nd, and the Broadway Merchants Association is working to make sure construction doesn't negatively impact it. Denver 7 is a sponsor of the parade.
Coming up, the Broncos lose to the Colts, and their fans did not hold back.
They're paying them $240 million to stink.
It's very embarrassing. They ought to give jerseys out for free.
Can the team bounce back after being booed off their own field? We take a closer look.
A cool morning to start tomorrow as you head out the door, but we are going to warm things up a little bit more as we go through the weekend, and I'll have your forecast coming up.
Plus, a senior field trip to a Colorado ranch.
Now, this is quite an experience.
How one program is creating a new experience while providing mental health benefits too.